So Cheryl Swoopes is just becoming the Paul Pierce of the WNBA when it comes to analyzing the game. Listen, she is a pioneer of the WNBA, deserves all her flowers for what she did in her career, but doesn't mean her basketball takes are always going to line up. We've seen this with Paul Pierce, where he said Dwayne Wade wasn't better than him. We can criticize a former NBA player or former basketball player if what they're saying doesn't make any sense. We saw her on Gil's Arena where she was completely wrong about Caitlin Clark's college career. You could spend literally 30 seconds just searching up everything she is saying, and she's way off base with what she said about how Caitlin Clark got an extra year of eligibility. That didn't happen. It's easy to fact check her. And she's moving into conversations where she reminds me of Paul Pierce and Kendrick Perkins, because those two, in my opinion, don't make sense when they talk basketball sometimes. They're just way off base. So in case you missed what Cheryl Swoopes had to say on her podcast called Queens of the Court, here's her opinion on Rookie of the Year so far. So Cheryl Swoopes says, I think Caitlin Clark has done, exactly what was expected of her with Indiana. The reason why they drafted her, what the expectations were, and I think she's done just that. Swoop says, Clark and Reese are competing in one of the closest WNBA Rookies of the Year debates the league has ever seen. However, Swoops believes that Angel Reese has been able to accomplish more because of her supporting cast. She argues that the Indiana Fever would have been a playoff team even without Caitlin Clark. She poses the question, is Indiana in the playoffs right now without Caitlin? And when you look at the overall team, like the pieces that they have, without question, Indiana has better players than Chicago from top to bottom. No doubt about it. So I do agree with Cheryl Swoopes when she says that the Indiana Fever's roster is better than the Chicago Sky's roster, but that should not take away from Caitlin Clark's accomplishments. In fact, when you're making takes like this, it's just lazy analysis because it should not take away from what they're doing on the basketball court. Is it Caitlin Clark's fault what Lynn Hall has done by orchestrating this roster, by what she's done in the offseason? How is that Caitlin Clark's fault? She has no control on how this roster gets constructed. I think that's one of the dumbest things I see in basketball discourse today. When they say, oh, this player has all this help. So let me get this straight. If you're the GM of a basketball team, you're just going to sit there and do nothing. You're not going to try to improve your team. You're not going to try to make your roster better so your superstar player can have more success. You're just going to be like, hey, be Allen Iverson out there and just carry everybody all day long. Is that going to get you championships? Please help me out. Has there been any basketball player out there who has carried a team on his back or her back to an NBA championship and have won it all? Jordan had Pippen. Shaq had Kobe. Dwayne Wade had Shaq. LeBron James had Dwayne Wade. Steph Curry had Klay Thompson. Steph Curry had Kevin Durant. Nikola Jokic had Jamal Murray. Jason Tatum had Jaylen Brown. I don't like this analysis because it's lazy. You don't make sense. Every superstar needs a good roster, and you need a secondary option so you have a shot at contending for championships. But this is Caitlin Clark's first year. So let's just take Caitlin Clark off this team. Who is getting the ball to Leah Boston? Is the Fever having the same success on the offensive side of the ball? I mean, this is basketball 101. It's common sense. No, they're not having the same success. But let's look at Angel Reese's situation. And let's put her on the Fever. We're just going to talk, again, basic basketball. Angel Reese still needs to polish her offensive game. She's great on the backboards, but when it comes to generating offense, that's something she still needs to work on. Is Angel Reese going to have the same impact as a playmaker? But let's just say they have just Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston and Katie Lou Samuelson. In fact, Cheryl Swoopes said that Katie Lou Samuelson has more of an impact than Caitlin Clark, that she's more important. What are we doing here? Why are we having these conversations? Because it doesn't make any type of sense. Caitlin Clark has scored or assisted more than any WNBA player this season. Scored or assisted. Take those numbers away. What's the Fever's record right now? They're probably not even in the playoffs. I highly doubt it. Kelsey Mitchell likes to chuck threes. Aaliyah Boston would have a harder time getting clean looks because she would have no point guard to set her up for easier shots. This just screams hate to me, and someone who just doesn't appreciate Caitlin Clark for what she's doing and trying to push agendas and getting people to believe her side because she's Cheryl Swoopes. But we're not looking at Cheryl Swoopes as the WNBA player. We're looking at her, how she's analyzing the game. And what she says here doesn't make any sense. This doesn't take any credit away from Angel Reese and what she's accomplished this season, especially with her double-double streak. But to say, oh, let's give it to her because her supporting cast is weaker. What are we doing here? We got to look at the impact of the basketball player. Caitlin Clark, without her playmaking, without her scoring ability, the Fever would be a bottom feeding team. They would be way out of the playoff picture. Caitlin Clark is the engine that runs this offense. She's pushing the pace. She's setting up Aaliyah Boston for easy layups. She's always talking about getting her teammates involved and making them better in every press conference. She's unselfish. And teams have even admitted that Caitlin Clark is their number one priority when it comes to the scouting report. That should tell you everything. Do we hear the same reports about Angel Reese? Are people scouting for her on the offensive side of the ball? Are they doubling her 24/7? Do they full court press her in the WNBA All-Star game? This conversation is a complete joke. Am I surprised by what Cheryl Swoopes had to say here? No, I'm not. Especially when she tried to make the argument that Caitlin Clark should have an asterisk next to breaking the record for most points scored in a college career. None of this surprises me. Like I said, she is a combination of Paul Pierce and Kendrick Perkins when it comes to analyzing basketball. Those are conversations you don't want to be a part of. Heck, if we had a show with Skip Bayless and Cheryl Swoopes, man, they would probably be the two biggest haters talking about Caitlin Clark right now. So yeah, Caitlin Clark is the runaway rookie of the year. I don't care what anyone says. She is the clear-cut favorite, and she'll continue to dominate when the season starts back up again. Hope you guys enjoyed this video today. I'd love to hear your thoughts on why Cheryl Swoopes doesn't believe Caitlin Clark should be rookie of the year. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.